Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Horror Room. I'm Travis Bruce, and today we're doing another Women of Horror Spotlight. Today, I have with us a special guest. She has a show that's going to be coming up Saturday, April 27th, at the Brass Mug in Tampa, Florida, and it's called Halfway to Halloween, Horrorlesque, Cabaret of Murderous Women. I have the director, producer, writer, and also performing, Betty Genesis. Betty, welcome to the Horror Room.
Hi, thank you for having me on.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. So tell us a little bit about the Horrorlesque Cabaret of Murderous Women.
So this is a sequel, actually. Death Becomes Them was my first big Horrorlesque production last October. Then we decided, why wait until October? Let's do it at halfway to Halloween. And what's great about Horrorlesque is we combine everything that's wonderful about the horror genre with burlesque. So instead of your traditional, very maybe more like luxurious kind of high-end entertainment, it's really for the horror fans.
I love it. And everybody, I understand everybody who's involved are all women of horror.
Yeah, so each different act, there's actually 13. Each act is depicting a different historical murderer or murderess, I should say. So we have Elizabeth Bathory, Mary Tudor, Belle Gunness, to name a few. But each of these performers is actually going to do a burlesque number that is telling the story of this historic serial killer.
Ooh. So what gave you the idea to come up with this?
Well, that's a funny one. The very first time I even learned about the horrorlesque genre of burlesque, I knew I wanted to do something about historic. You know, I love history. I wanted to include like historical characters, not just movies or books, which does happen a lot for a lot of horrorlesque and nerdlesque shows. But I knew I wanted to do something historical. And as I was kind of outlining my show, it grew into a whole book. So Death Becomes Them is also the collection of murderous women through history that I've researched and put together. So the first Death Becomes Them in October was also kind of a book party, you know, celebrating, hey, I went crazy and decided to write a book and y'all get to watch us act it out.
So I have never known that was a such thing as horrorlesque cabarets. I've been to burlesque shows before. I'm a huge horror fan, and I'm like, that's a perfect mix for me.
It really is for me. That is definitely my niche. There are so many different ways that burlesque is done now. We have what's called nerdlesque, which is usually pop culture, comic book kind of influence. But what I love about horrorlesque is it combines, you know, one of my favorite art forms with my favorite genre. So now it's definitely fun.
And I'm really glad that you actually bring it in women of horror, because I mean there have been women killers out there as many as men, but I feel like they don't get a spotlight. I mean, women can be as crazy and vicious as men.
Right. I feel like a lot of times we look at, oh, you know, we're motherly, or we're daughters or wives, and you're supposed to be softer. But sometimes we go batshit crazy. And people get unalived. And yeah, there is definitely, I mean, I don't know the actual numbers to say, well, this percentage of serial killers are male, this percentage are female. But there's a whole lot of killer women out there that just maybe don't get the headlines that some of the men do.
So what do you think, as a woman, what's your opinion? What do you think sparks a woman to kill?
Well, 98% of the time, it's usually men. Like, not gonna lie. My work is definitely from a feminist slant. For example, Mary Tudor, you know, she burned all these people alive and persecuted people. Well, then you look at her backstory. Her father basically left the church, left her mom, disowned her, all of this, started his own church, and, you know, sent her off to go live somewhere else, disinherited her. Of course, she had an axe to grind. So I, you know, kind of feel like, well, what if we looked at it from a different perspective? Or if you look at Belle Gunnis's story, and not to be an apologist for murder, because killing people is bad and we shouldn't do it, of course.
It is, exactly.
We don't want to kill people, but she was living at a time where women couldn't even own property. They couldn't have a bank account. Your options for employment as a woman were very limited. You pretty much had to either get married or be a prostitute. And she found another way around that. She was a pretty well-to-do widow, had a decent piece of property left to her by her husband, and she would recruit these men to come be her farmhands and work for her. And sometimes she would develop relationships with them and get them to sign over their life insurance benefits to her. And she did this numerous times where she would just kill them off and cash in and get the next one. And he'd work out for a little while and then she'd kill him and cash in. And it was very business-like, almost like, wow, this gal like figured out a whole financial plan.
Not playing.
You know, she was a gal with a plan that involved a lot of debt.
So during this Horrorlesque, are we going to see some of the murders?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
I'm saying during this cabaret show, are we going to see some of the murders?
I don't want to completely spoil it. And I'll be honest, I don't 100% know what each act is going to entail. That's one of the fun parts about being in burlesque is as the producer, each of the performers is their own independent entertainer. And so I chose them to be in my show based on, okay, I know their style, I know what they can do, I know what they can bring, but I've kind of given them creative control. It's like, okay, this is your character, do something awesome. There's a couple of them that I kind of have an idea of what they're going to do. And then there's some of them where I'm like, I have no idea what's going to happen. It's going to be freaking amazing. And I can't wait to see. You know, we might see someone get beheaded, or Elizabeth Bathory might, you know, kill a few people and bathe in their blood. I don't know.
Well, this sounds absolutely fun because I mean, I live in the DMV and I live in Maryland, and I don't think I've seen any Horrorlesque shows come through the DC Maryland area.
I'm not too familiar with the burlesque scene in that area. I do know in Pennsylvania's got a pretty great burlesque community. Philly and Pittsburgh both have some really great nerdlesque and horrorlesque shows. But I think a lot of it is because I'm in Tampa, Florida. And Florida is such a heavy horror state. Like we have a lot of horror films have been made here. We have a lot of writers that live here. We have several horror conventions here. So I think we probably have a lot more Horrorlesque than other places might. Probably gets lumped into Halloween time, October only in a lot of states.
Oh, that's amazing. Now, were you always a horror fan growing up?
For as long as I can remember, absolutely. I mean, my earliest childhood memories, probably 3-4 years old, sitting with my dad in his, you know, big old lounge chair watching Freddy and Friday the 13th and Halloween and all the old classic Vincent Price movies. So I've always grown up loving horror. And then once I learned how to read, it was all about the horror books. And
well, I mean, this sounds like an amazing show. Now, how can people purchase tickets?
So super easy, www.deathbecomesthem.com. You go to the website and right there when you land, there's a little thing that says buy tickets here. And you just click that link and Ticket Bud will take care of you.
Sweet. Right. And I'm going to have the link down in the description box. So please click and support. Betty, okay, I'm going to ask you 3 random horror questions. You ready?
Okay. All right. I'm as ready as I can get.
Okay. First question. What was the first horror movie that really got you into horror? That made you a fan of horror?
That's a tough one. Probably Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
It's a good one.
Yeah, that's like, I'm trying to think, like, how far back can I remember? And that's like the earliest I can remember. And I can close my eyes and picture the cotton candy with the person inside and the, sucking them out through the straw.
Sucking them out, yeah.
That one just got me.
And the second one, what's one horror character villain do you feel like you relate to? Or you understand where they're coming from?
Oh, that's a good one. One that I can understand. That's a tough one. Actually, and it's kind of weird. Scream 2. Billy's mom, Mrs. Loomis. Obviously she was completely off the rails, but she also had this whole, like, you messed with my kid, like, now I have to take you out. And I, when I'm not performing, I am a mom. And, definitely that whole mama bear. Like, again, I'm not justifying homicide, but if you took out one of my kids, I'm pretty sure I would have a vendetta.
I can see that. Yes, I totally agree. Yeah. And I love a good horror character that has a backstory that you're like, I relate to them. I wouldn't do what they would do, but I see where they're coming from.
Right. And that's kind of one of the great things with Death Becomes Them is our MC is really amazing at kind of helping give the backstory so that the audience can kind of look at the other side. Like, yeah, we know that Eileen Wuornos killed people and did these horrible things and was eventually executed. But look at what she grew up. Look at, why did she become what she became? I do love that in a good movie.
Now, I have a question. This is back on top of Are you afraid of any backlash from individuals who would say that you're glorifying a killer?
There might be some people that say that, and they're welcome to have their opinions. I don't agree, but I believe in free speech, and everyone has opinions, and some people share them. I made it very clear, even with the first page, the opening of my book is, I'm not an apologist for murder. We're definitely not glorifying what these women did. And one of the things that I have sought to do personally is to try to seek out the names of the victims, which was not always possible, especially with going back further in time. Historically, I can't find the names of the slaves that Cleopatra executed. But for more recent ones, like Tilly Klimek, for example, or Belva Gardner, I'm able to at least say the names of their victim. So I feel like their death isn't in vain, and I'm trying to honor them. But it is entertainment. And at the end of the day, if you don't like me, I'm sorry. It sucks to be you.
Yeah. I was just wondering that. And the final question I'm going to ask you, you have to cohabitate with one of these horror movie villains for a year. Who's it going to be? Is it going to be Freddy, Jason, or Michael Myers? Now, they're not going to murder you, but you have to live with them for a year.
One of those three? I feel like Michael Myers probably would be a really good housekeeper. He seems very methodical and very thorough. So, and I am not the best housekeeper. I hate laundry. So I feel like, there's room for growth there.
Yeah, because I agree. Out of those three, I would agree with Michael Myers because I was going to say Freddy, but I feel like Freddy, I love my sleep, and I feel like Freddy would be fucking with me in my sleep all the time.
Yeah, see, if you mess with my sleep, then I can't do that, no, because sleep is precious to me.
That would get old quick. Yeah.
Yeah.
That would get old quick.
And also, I feel like, when you look at the other guys were always chasing after multiple victims. How many decades did Michael pursue Laurie Strode? I mean, that's dedication. So, that's, you got to at least give them, character points for that.
Yes. I mean, 1%. I mean, he was locked in and he was committed to his cause. And you can't, yes, to murder her, but I mean, still.
Yeah. Every
Betty,
cloud has a silver lining, right?
Exactly. By the way, and Jason has no personality at all. So I think I wouldn't want. I wouldn't live with Jason. I mean, he's probably my least favorite out of the three. He's definitely my least favorite. If he doesn't have that personality.
Yeah, I don't. I don't feel like there'd be a lot of fun, intelligent conversation there.
Yeah, not at all.
Feels like game night wouldn't be very fun.
I don't think anything would be fun with Jason. Like, he just seems like a boring guy.
I mean, maybe yard work,
And machete.
Maybe he could do some tree maintenance.
But he is a mama's boy, so I mean, I guess that's good. Maybe. I mean, that's a silver line. Betty, where can everyone find you?
You can find me on Instagram, the Betty Genesis. You can find me on Facebook, deathbecomesthem.com, and here on Horror Realm right now.
Yes. Listen, everybody, please get over this Saturday to the Brass Mug in Tampa, Florida. If you're in the area, please swing by there and check out the Halfway to Halloween Horrorlesque Cabaret of Murderous Women. And you can see our very own Betty Genesis there as well.
And if you're not in Florida and you want to bring Horrorlesque to your neighborhood, definitely reach out. Have show, we'll travel.
I would love for the burlesque the Horrorlesque to come to the DMV. I would definitely go to one of those. I really would. I really would go.
That would be super fun.
Well, Betty, it's been a pleasure having you on. I wish you nothing but luck and success for your show. And you're more than welcome to come on anytime.
Well, thank you so much. And I look forward to listening to more fun episodes.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. All right, everyone. Well, thank you for coming to the Horror Realm. I'm Travis Bruce, and she's Betty Genesis. We'll see you guys next time. Take care.